The origin of the Mena House was that of a royal lodge, founded in 1869 by the ruler of Egypt, Khedive Ismail. For the visit of the Empress Eugenie, during the inauguration of the Suez Canal, a road was laid between Cairo and the pyramids, and a pair of lodges were built. One was on the rocky plateau, next to the Great Pyramid, the other on lower ground. In 1883, Frederick and Jessie Head, a couple on their honeymoon, acquired a former Khedive hunting lodge near the Great Pyramid. They enlarged the house and added a second floor. Seeking a name for their estate, Professor A.H. Sy made the suggestion that it should be called Mena House, after the first king referenced in the Tablet of Abydos. A few years later, Mena House was sold to another wealthy couple, Hugh and Ethel Lock-King, who were wintering in Egypt. Once the couple had settled into their lodge at the pyramids, Ethel decided to create a hotel next to her residence. Finally, she hired a Cairo-based English architect, Henri Fabergé, to create their hotel, which was plotted out in the desert beside the lodge, which they retained as their own private residence. The Mena House Family Hotel with 80 guest rooms was opened in 1887. Rooms were spacious with 10-foot height ceiling, fireplace and furnished with English furniture. The hotel was appointed with a billiard room, a dark room for the use of amateur photographers, a studio for artists, a Moorish dining room, and a library, as well as of the Italian photographer Fassini, who had his studio at the hotel. In 1895, a swimming bath was added to the hotel, the first of its kind in Egypt. The Egyptian Gazette described it as a revolutionary pool. Few years later, Mrs. Lock-Kings decided to appoint their Polish friend, Baron Ernest de Rodakowski, as hotel manager. It was Rodakowski who built the stables, the stand, the gymkhana, and later in 1999 the golf course, which is the first in Africa. Few years later the hotel was leased to Emil Weckel, who managed the hotel until 1904, when the Lock-Kings sold the hotel to George Nungrovich Egyptian Hotels Company for the sum of £65,000. Beginning of World War I, Mena House was requisitioned as temporary barracks for Australian troops. Soon a large camp was built behind Mena House for the Australian troops, and later during the First World War, the Mena House became one of the hospitals, and remained so for the rest of the war. February 1928, Charlie Chaplin arrived for a few weeks with his companion. He was busy writing a script for his next film but took time off to give a tea party at the terrace. Among his guests was the Emperor of Ethiopia Haile Selassie and King Alfonso of Italy. November 1943, the Mena House saw one of its most exciting years. Plans for Overlord, the invasion of Europe, had to be discussed by Churchill and Roosevelt, and operations in Southeast Asia needed consultation with General Chiang Kai-shek. It was decided that the Big Three conference should take place at the Mena House Hotel, where they announced the independence of the Korean Peninsula.
The Mena House Hotel, Mrs. Philip Mercedes.
You said you were arriving on the evening train.
Oh, I'd learned what it meant to be separated from you.
December 1977, Mena House was the venue for Mena House Conference, the pre-Camp David peace talks between Egypt and Israel. The hotel was fully closed for the public and open only to delegates. In 1979, Frank Sinatra, while staying at Mena House, gave 2 fundraising events for the City of Faith and Hope founded by Mrs. Sadat. The first event was a fashion show by Pierre Barman at the poolside of Mena House, and the following day a concert at the Pyramids, where Sinatra sang "Strangers on the Nile."